open. Welcome to a morning recording of I'm Open to Your Talk. As it is the morning, no one else has joined me yet, but I figured I can do an intro by myself. And then, people will join as they join. In the meantime, I will just stall and dump, as we like to say, on this podcast until everyone's joined and ready. It's currently 6:30 Mountain Time, so that's what everyone was supposed to be on, but it's still just me. My dog has joined. A little treat for anyone watching this intro. Hi. Oh, we've got Joe now. And Ryan.
Oh, Ryan. Showing some guns today. Let's
go.
Damn. He's open.
I'm ready to talk some tears.
Mamma mia.
Yeah, I'm already recording. I did a solo intro while I waited. But we still have some time to dump. If I figured we would have Joe talk about being at the Breeze Philly game as our dump.
Well, let me tell you, Sam, what a game it was. Let's ignore Frisbee for a second, and let's just talk about how Daniel Cohen wasn't there, because
stood you up, I heard.
Yeah, he and I we had a whole a nice little hangout scheduled at the DC Breeze game, and I go there. I'm gonna surprise him. I'm gonna say hi. Maybe sneak around, tap him on the wrong shoulder or something. And I can't find the man anywhere. So I do a loop of the whole stadium. I even look in the bleachers, can't see him and his glorious hair anywhere. So, I have to resort to DMing him, and he tells me that he's stood me up. He said, I didn't actually want to hang out with you. I'm in Chicago. And so, that was brutal. But the DC Breeze have a great app that you can order beer from, and you just go up and they'll give it to you. It's wonderful. They also gave me this, which Twitter saw as well. Nice. I'm very excited about.
Are you gonna add it to the car?
The car that I do not own, I will add it to. I did like Sam and I had a little back and forth, both from our the Ringer the account, just commenting about this, and maybe I was going to trade him the license plate thing for his car. So we'll see if that's still on the table.
Yeah,
but
that's a good trade. I would take that trade.
Yeah, the guy who threw it to me, he was unhappy with the way people were catching it. So I kind of threw my hand up and it landed on my arm, and he was impressed by that. But in terms of Frisbee, it was a great game too. Philly came out hungry early. They looked efficient. DC looked fine. Like, they had one or two turns in the first quarter that, they weren't great, but it wasn't like they looked like they were playing terribly, and Philly just wouldn't turn it over. And then kind of towards the end of the second quarter, DC started to pull it back to even. I think they were down like 2 for a good part of the first and second. And then DC went up, and then Philly went up, and it looked like Philly might be able to take it, but DC got a nice little turn and got to tie it up, and then got another turn. And we've all seen the second buzzer beater in that back-to-back between those two. And the funniest part was there were a ton of Philly fans at this game. There were people holding signs very specifically for someone named Max. So like maybe family or something, but there's a guy who's standing like on the field who was clearly a Philadelphia fan, and he was videotaping the last play, and he was screaming at the ref that it bounced. And he was like, look at this video. There's a clear bounce on the ground. You're so wrong. And the ref just kind of like laughs at him.
Your grainy phone.
Yeah. There were like 4 players in between us and like the disc. There's just like no way he could have seen if that hit the ground or not. But all I know is DC got the win, and Philadelphia can suck it.
Rewatching the clip online, I don't think it bounced. It looks pretty clean for me.
Yeah, I don't think so
Oh,
either.
it was clearly up. Like even the
Yeah.
Philly players were like, man, like they were like walking off. So it was an
Yeah.
insane game. Joe, can you speak to like what the vibe in the stands was for that last play?
Oh my God. I mean, it was crazy. DC has a good number of fans. Philly scored first. So like it was kind of loud and everyone was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. And then when DC scored their first one, it was like 2 times as loud, like 3 times as loud. And then on that last play, I mean, everybody was just like jumping and like screaming. Everybody had kind of migrated from the bleachers, or like there's a hill kind of on the like at the back of the end zone. They like migrated up to like the chain link fence right by the field, and so everybody was just screaming. And then right after, like they all handshaked, all the players came and like ran down the sideline and high-fived everybody who was standing there. Both DC and Philly came around and high-fived. I felt kind of mean leaving after DC high-fived us, but I didn't want to high-five the Philadelphia players, but I still did.
Good. That's some good spirit.
Real talk, Joe. That beer that you ordered on your phone, how much did it cost?
It was $7.50.
And what how much of it was it? Like a big beer or small beer?
It was a small beer, but it was a local IPA. So I don't know. Take that how you will. I would have been okay with like a big shitty $10 beer.
Do you spend more and you get more, or do you spend less and you get less? And so
I think I haven't done the math, but I think bigger is better. So
there you go.
It was a 12-ounce beer. But $7.50, not a terrible price.
For stadium, not bad.
Yeah.
I gotta get me to an AUDL game. I mean, I'm in a little bit of an island in New Orleans. Maybe I go to a Legion game, probably Atlanta. I don't know. But it sounds like just an awesome time if you're at all into frisbee. AUDL sponsor us. I don't know.
I saw a bunch of moms and their children that I play pickup with on Wednesdays. They were like all at this game.
Nice. So in on the topic of Daniel Cohen standing us up, didn't you stand up a DC Breeze player who had a beer signed and ready to go, and you had already left the premises?
I mean, is it standing up if I asked like the DC Breeze 5 times for someone to sign my beer and then someone responds to me 10 minutes after I leave? I do feel really bad because I did want a beer signed. Also, does anybody know who Coach M is on Twitter, and if that's AJ Merriman's mom? It kind of seems like it might be, and she liked my tweet about wanting to AJ marry him.
That's funny. I bet if you like stalked the likes, you could maybe get the full picture. I've seen that Twitter account too, and it looks very much like a mom. But
I think the other main thing I wanted to discuss before we actually got into the tiers was the wild weekend for the Atlanta Hustle, who played 2 games in Texas, and they were both insane.
Yeah.
The first one they almost lost to Dallas, and so it was like, oh, they're probably gonna just get their ass kicked by the Soul. But then they were beating the shit out of the Soul, and then the Soul had a miraculous comeback that I had given up on and stopped watching, and then had to turn it back on. So yeah, Ryan, I know you watched the games because you had money on them. So what were your takeaways from the Dallas game and then the Austin game?
I have no idea how to put takeaways on these games. I mean, like the outcomes like are what we expected minus the spread. I think we all expected Atlanta to kind of beat on the Legion. I'll say this. We talked about this last week. We kind of talked about it on the pod with Reese about how we think Dallas is better than they are because they've only played really tough teams. And I think, given the circumstances of it being an away game for Atlanta and being really hot in Dallas, I think there's got to be some merit there. I think if you put Dallas up against Detroit or Dallas up against Cannons, I think I'm taking Dallas. I think that's my takeaway is that if we're talking about the bottom teams, Dallas is like at the top of the list.
Yeah, I think that's a solid take. I mean, they looked pretty good. Yeah, there was some interesting that game had some calls that were kind of going around the Frisbee Twitter. That one that looked like just like the most clean sky you could ever see.
It was
getting called for a foul, pretty much exclusively because the guy fell.
Yeah.
That was tough. That was a really tough call.
I feel like I saw that a lot this weekend, and I just kind of overall, but specifically this weekend, I saw a lot of times people got like a little bit of contact, and like I don't even know if they were arguing it all that much. And then the call was, now it's a 48, 50-yard completion because of it.
Yeah. And then we were talking about last week with Reese on the integrity rule, like it sounds like it depends on who you are. Like some people will always call the integrity rule, and other people are like, well, if the ref blew the call, it's in favor of me. Fuck it, let's move on. And I'd be interested to hear like where would you guys stand on that? Like, let's just say, there's difference between like a strip and a foul, but like if there's a foul call that you're like, I don't think it was a foul, would you call integrity and give it to the other team, or would you kind of be like the ref's a part of the game? Let's move on.
I mean, the integrity call is part of the game as well. And I think a lot of these professional players, when you get to that high level, I feel like you can only benefit from having a good rapport with all the players on the other teams. I like to think that I would try to make the integrity call if I really thought that the ref had blown the call, but it's tough to say in the heat of competition as well. And like, let's say we're getting like a little bit chippy. I don't want to say like we're both like overtly fouling each other the whole game, but if it's a little back and forth and it's the heat of the game, I mean, it might be hard to look at it objectively. It would be difficult. I do admire a lot of the players who are just like integrity call, whatever, man, high five, and then move on. And then they're back to like playing super intensely. I think that's really impressive. And I think that's most players in the AUDL. So I don't know. I always appreciate when someone has it because refs make mistakes, and I think that's like, imagine if in the NFL or in the MLB, a umpire or a ref made a call and the player on the other team's like, no, that's so wrong. And then they were just like, screw these umps or refs or whatever. And then just kept going. Like, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I also like to think I would make it, but it also would definitely lead to me like accepting small contact that like by definition was a foul, but I wouldn't have called. Like if it was like if the onus was on me, like I probably wouldn't have called it. But if the refs did, like I'll take it. But I'd like to think that I would use it and be like, no, that just wasn't a foul. He just skied the shit out of me.
I've thought about this just watching games, and sometimes I'll see like a call gets made, and then the person who commits the foul will like start talking to the person that they fouled about it, and like personally, I think I'm too agreeable. So I would like if I were the one who got fouled, I would have a hard time being like no. So I think personally, I would keep a rule to just not use the integrity rule so that I don't kind of get walked over by like someone getting in my face being like that wasn't a foul. I think egregious things like drops and up calls and whatever, like that's easy to be honest about, but yeah, fouls can change from game to game. So for the most part, I would just trust the refs as much as players complain about them. They're the experts.
I found it really interesting when Reese was talking about knowing a team's refs. I didn't even really think about how it makes a lot of sense that the refs will ref games in a specific city, and like knowing how they ref is a good thing to know. Like I guess that's just an advantage for home games is how they ref you know what you can get away with.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there's refs that are just tied to a team.
That's what Reese was saying on the last
Interesting.
pod. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, you hope that it's not biased. I mean, I guess logistically it would be. I'm guessing they're volunteers or like, you know, they
Yeah.
probably don't get paid very much. Yeah, we know what Everest rookie contract looks like, so we know that they can't be, you know, like they probably aren't going to have these refs travel all the time. So you know, it makes sense. But I wonder, like, is there some bias happening there? Like, it's possible. And yeah, like I could imagine refs in like the Northeast would be different than refs in like, you know, Tampa Bay or something.
Yeah,
right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, if I recall what Reese was saying, I don't think he was saying there was bias. I think it was just like a different style. Like he said that, what was it? It was one of the refs that he plays against, like they don't count the stall with their hand,
Yeah.
they do it in their head. And he was like, that's totally different, like to get used to.
That's
And
right.
then I think,
They count the stalls.
yeah,
That's
and I think
crazy.
the other thing was just like the level of like contact for fouls. Like it's different from not only game to game, but ref to ref on the field. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that's different than playing club where everything's kind of like self-refereed and like even that can be like different, you know. So
That does change game to game too.
so,
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, real quick, the clap catch behind the back also in the
Sam, you
catcher.
had a great take on that.
Yeah. I was just saying it's like obviously it's wrong, but from the moment I learned that people did that, I was like, that's fucking stupid. Like, there's no way someone's not gonna be like, you dropped that. So I mean, especially when you're doing it like behind your head, like that's not even the same as just like catching it clearly in front of you and dropping it. And I mean, obviously he caught it to anyone watching at home, but like I'm definitely not mad about about calling it a turn because I think that's hilarious. I think that celebration is just so stupid.
I have a slightly different take. I was trying to find like what are the catch rules in frisbee, you know? And as it turns out, the AUDL rule book, I mean maybe I like missed it, but there's really like not a lot on defining a catch in the AUDL rule book, but in the USAU rule book, if I can try to pull it up, I posted it in like a reply to Evan Lepler's thread on the subject, because like I don't know, people can talk, but like how do we actually interpret this rule? And so the rule is, according to USAU, is possession of the disc is sustained contact with and control of a non-spinning disc. Catching a pass is equivalent to establishing possession of that pass. If a player loses possession of a disc during movement related to a catch, the initial possession ends. And like, I don't know, I feel like such a like pushing my glasses and be like, well, actually, but like he like kind of catches it in stride and then lets go of it, you know, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like it was in the motion of the catch. Like, was the goal a foregone conclusion? Yes. Like, it's a lame call. It's super lame that you make the call, but like, I think the ref was within their rights to say like, no, it's not a call, you know, like I think
Yeah.
as a player, I would just, there's no reason not to just secure it and secure the goal and save the celebrating for after you're positive that you're in, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know. That's kind of my take. I feel like Sam and I, maybe we have like a slightly different view on it, but
Nah, I agree
Yeah,
with you.
that's interesting. Definitely not sustained control.
like I'm rewatching it and it's like I'm trying to find the pause it where he's holding it clearly and stepping, and it happens so fast and the video is so grainy, but
Mhm.
I don't know. It's kind of is a catch.
When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's a drop. And then I like watched it 3 times and I was like, oh, he's doing that dumb shit where he catches it and throws it behind his back. And like, just don't do that. Like, I'm totally with like both of you. Like, one, who knows if it's a catch? Two, it's like, that's so stupid. Like,
Yeah,
it's
like
so dumb.
it would have looked pretty much exactly the same if he had catched it into a bobble and just dropped it. Like there's like just no difference in what it would be.
Yeah.
Plus, I
All
wouldn't
right.
want them to score there. So
Yeah. I'm glad we talked about that. That was all over Twitter.
Should we
All
pull
right,
up-
let
should
me
we pull
get
up the
the,
tiers?
yeah, let's do it.
This is what it's all about, folks. Prime time.
We're back to the tier list. So not much happened at the top. So let's just go top to bottom so that we get through the teams that didn't play that much. Empire and Summit. I mean, the Summit didn't play. The Empire technically played, but they just beat the shit out of Boston. So like nothing changes there.
Yeah.
Then Carolina technically played, but they just beat the shit out of the Cannons. I do want to mention Sasha Vogel leading the game in hockey assists per completion among throwers with 100+ yards.
Electric.
Well, yeah, seriously.
That's MVP stuff right there.
Definitely. And I don't know, like the Cannons ultimately lost the game, but if you have him on the team all season, you know, we might be looking at a very different South Division.
100%.
Absolutely. And I do believe on that Twitter thread where we were pointing out that that accomplishment, Sasha looked up, what was it? It was like ratio of hockey assist completions, and his was what is his?
His is
100%?
40%. And then Jordan
Um,
Kerr's was like 7.6%.
Not bad,
That's
good.
I don't know if he could be
Not good
MVP
enough.
with those numbers.
the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we can all you
Well-
look at the numbers, you can't deny what the numbers say. So
Jordan Kerr, friend of the pod, he already told us that Sasha taught him everything he knows. So it makes
Mhm.
sense for the master to just be way better
Of
than
course. Of
friend.
course.
Jordan, you got to get your hockey assists up. All right. never mind the fact that he like had a season high in assists last against Seattle, but you know,
Yeah, up next we have the shred. So since we're talking about Jordan Kerr, I wanted to see what his numbers looked like combined for the weekend, because I know he had a stupid game against Seattle. Yeah, 11 assists and 3 goals against Seattle. And then
was that a season high?
I don't even know.
Probably. I saw something that it was like
7 assists
they-
in this game, 18
2
assists in a
goals.
weekend. Jesus.
18
bad
assists and 5 goals.
day at the office.
But only one hockey assist.
That's tough.
Oof.
Yeah.
So obviously he's kind of a ball hog. He needs everything to run through him, but impressive nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to go back to the tier talk for a second, talk about it, like I forgot who I had the discussion with. I think it was friend of the pod, Stallman Hammers, and we were talking about this S tier and A tier being like for sure playoff bound, for sure like championship weekend bound, and like we currently have 4 teams in that S and A tier. The problem is we've got 2 from the West Division. And with that being said, and it's like you look at the past few games, like the team that that's who's coming out of that Central Division, and it's looking like it's going to be the Union, and we've got them in C tier, which to
I
me
don't
is
know if it's looking like the Union.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to say.
I
'cause
feel like yeah, Minnesota just dropped one to Madison in Madison, but honestly, I think Minnesota has looked like the strongest team so far.
Gotcha.
yeah, it's
Minnesota
tough.
dropping to Madison is wild though. So
Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
people always talk about that Madison home field advantage. So
true that.
but no, I think the divisions aren't gonna like even out perfectly. Like I think it's fair to say the shred would be the top dog if they happen to be in the Central Division. I think I'm comfortable with that opinion. But yeah, maybe because of how things are shaking out, we need two Central Divisions and 2 Central teams in B that might represent it a little better. I don't know.
Well, I don't think we have to say, well, we need X amount of teams from this division. I think, some divisions are stronger than others. This is just about individual teams. And there will be 3 playoff teams from the Central, but maybe that 3rd playoff team from the Central is like, much worse than the third playoff team in the West, or that's just kind of
Right.
how the cookie crumbles sometimes, I guess. Do we
Mhm.
want to? We're a little all over the place. We were talking shred, and then we kind of went to central stuff. Where do we want to talk right now? Do we want to talk about Madison, Winchell a little bit more?
We can leave that.
Um,
That's our last game. We can leave that towards the end if we want. That's kind of like the big kahuna.
Okay.
why
so
don't we let's just kind of keep going in order. So if we're comfortable leaving the shred where they are, which it sounds like we are.
they made a case for S tier this weekend. I say we keep them in A, but yeah, they had an awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to glance over the fact that they beat an E tier team by 1 point.
Yeah.
But
I
it was
agree.
Seattle at home, you know.
It's true.
different
Seattle.
Seattle at home is S tier. So
And then they kicked the shit out of the Nitro. The Nitro have got to go down. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
And also, I think we might be taking too much from Pavel. Like, are the Flyers really not an S tier? The Flyers
Yeah,
are
I
really
agree with
good.
Joe there.
I-
That's my
like,
next pick.
I don't know if like Pavel saying we should only have 2 S tier teams mean we need to do that forever, because like, I don't know. Carolina
Yeah.
looks disgusting to me.
I just think the one in the L column is kind of what gives me pause a little bit. I mean,
Nope.
the S is the cream of the crop, and Carolina is the cream of the crop. There's only 2 teams in A. I mean, we have some really good teams in C tier right now.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go with Joe, and if the Summit, and like I love my Summit, but if they had been challenged this year by any team besides the Shred, there's a chance they get an L. The Flyers have to play the Hustle, they have to play the Soul. Like it's not surprising to me that they drop at least one of those games, and they drop to the Soul, who just beat the Hustle. Like those are
back to
good teams
back too.
on the back to back.
And they were missing some players in the Soul loss. So,
Mm.
but I mean, that's part of being S tier is like bringing your full squad to the road too. I feel like
Flyers dog on teams, like they're
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, I don't know. And they've been good. Like it's not like this is like a new thing. Like they're a new team. Like, oh wow, they're putting up some big numbers. Like they've been the best team in the league for like, past few years. So
You know what I'm gonna
Like
do?
what happens if they win the championship this year and they weren't in our S tier? Like, they're good enough to do that. I feel like if they're a team that I feel confident saying they could win the championship, like they should probably be S tier.
That's a good point.
Okay, I'm gonna rattle off a couple stats for the Flyers. Second in the league in scores. Let's see, second in the league in completions. Both of these are behind the Empire. Turnovers, where are they at? The Breeze are very high in turnovers. The Breeze are number 1 in the league in turnovers. Total turnovers. That's interesting.
And
Flyers are up
most
there.
per game or least per game.
Least per game.
Okay.
Oh yeah, okay. That makes way more sense.
Their D line doesn't turn it over ever.
Yeah.
No,
That's
they
where you
don't.
get most of your turnovers.
Let's go hold percentage. They're first in the league. Flyers are first in the league. Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced that's S tier. They're first or second in the league, and probably, the stats that win games, like how much do you
Yeah.
score? How much does your O-line, hold? Like, they're S.
Mhm. I'm not going to be the guy who's going to say the Flyers, going to argue against the Flyers being one of the best teams in the league. So I'm definitely cool with moving them up. I think I agree that these 3 are, I'm comfortable saying these 3 will be at championship weekend. And if any team isn't, it's probably the Summit, but that's just because the Shred are so good.
Yeah.
It's not really anything about them.
yeah.
All right. So we've got through 4 teams.
Before
Let's-
moving on to the STR, I just wanted to read a stat that I found very funny. Adam Ruffner wrote a ranking, I think, before this week of just like all the teams where he thinks they're all at, and he has the Empire number 1, as we all do, and he has like an upward trend for all of them and a downward trend, and the downward trend was New York ranks 17th in holds per game at 14.7, and my first thought reading that was like, yeah, that's probably because they only play D points. Like they probably don't have a lot of O point opportunities to get holds.
When
So
you
that's-
blow teams out like they do, you're getting so
Yeah.
many breaks.
so that was a funny
That's
stat.
really funny.
That had to have been a joke, right?
I don't know.
I hope it was.
All right, well, let's move forward. We got the Breeze. Joe, I know you wanted to talk about moving them up.
Okay. I think I have some thoughts. I know you want to move Philadelphia up, and if that happens, I want the Breeze up because yeah, both games are really tight and could have gone either way. But if you look at the whole season, and even in these two games specifically, I still think the Breeze seem like the better team and probably should be the better team and have a more efficient defense, have for the season, I think a more efficient offense, but I don't actually know that by stats. And especially in the second game, that was not the case. But I still think that they're clearly a better team than Philly. But I don't think that they're without their flaws. And do I think they're on the same level as the Shred? I don't know if that's actually true, but I don't know. Maybe if Shred is the high of the A tier, the Breeze could be on the lower end of the A tier also. And so I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. I do think they're an A tier team and they should be an A tier team, but I just don't. They got 6 blocks against Philly, and Philly got 8, I think. But I don't know. If you're not getting D's, then what's the point of having an efficient D line? They should be playing a little bit better. I think hopefully this back-to-back to Philly shocked them into playing a little bit better. So I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of them comparatively to these other teams. Do I think the A tier is just the Shred and the Breeze? Probably not. But if Philadelphia is B tier, then Breeze are A tier.
I'm looking at, I mean, obviously the results have been super close between these two teams, and at the end of the day, that's really what matters. Did you win or did you lose? But I mean, the Breeze are, when you look at turnovers, they have the fewest in the league. Their completion percentage, the Breeze is highest in the league.
I think
Hold
the Breeze might have
percentage.
had fewer turnovers than Philly in this last game. They did. They had 14 turnovers and Philly had 16. It's
Yeah, I mean,
not
that's pretty
DC
even.
got wildly outplayed. Just all the
Yeah.
stats are really similar.
Well, but I guess my point was over the course of the maybe game to game, maybe it's a combination of Phoenix really stepping up and Breeze maybe playing down a little bit. I think Breeze is a tier above Phoenix, and I know the scores were close. But when you look at over the course of the season and all the stats that specifically turnovers and completion percentage, that Breeze are first or second in the league in, the Phoenix is I don't know, 8th or 11th in turnovers. They're in the bottom half of the league, and completion percentage, they're not 11th. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're middle of the pack. I don't know. I have them a tier below. If we want to move them up, I would say move Breeze up, or maybe they can.
I'll speak to my thinking because it's similar to what Joe was saying. So I want to move Philly up, but I also want to move the Breeze up. And I think tying those teams so they're not 2 tiers apart makes a lot of sense, because I think Philly really is. I do agree that they're not as good as the Breeze, but I think they're within striking distance, as they've shown. Philly got off to a terrible start to the year. They had a 1-point loss to Boston, which week 1 Boston at home is different from the Boston that we've seen. Then they had a loss to Montreal, who was also good early in the season but isn't anymore. But outside of those, they've lost to the Empire by 2 and then to the Breeze by 1 twice.
That's
so
brutal.
Yeah, it seems like they've, as a franchise, they've been not that great for a long time. So I think honestly, I think some of it is just like they're good enough, but they just are not. They don't have like the winning kind of mindset of some of these like really elite teams that have always been elite. But yeah, I think it's totally fair to say the Breeze are on the level of the Shred. And I want to keep Philly one below them is my thinking.
I'd be
Yeah.
okay with that. And
Agreed.
both of the other teams. So let's say we move the Breeze up, then we've got Minnesota and Atlanta who both lost. So maybe that, notches them down a peg, and I think that leaves room for Philly to kind of be on the same level as them.
Right.
It's the way we've seen them play the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm in favor of moving Breeze up, moving Philly up. What do you guys think, Joe
Love
and
it.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think putting Breeze next to the Shred makes sense. The next thing to talk about, I mean, it kind of gets complicated here with both those teams losing, is where does the Soul fit in all this?
Yeah.
I don't think we can leave this pod without having the Soul higher than the Hustle. Just that
Mhm.
looking at it now, like the Soul are gonna make the playoffs and the Hustle aren't. Like,
Knock
Yeah.
on wood.
fact.
Move Soul up. I don't know. What do we think?
Yeah, I definitely think Soul should go up.
Yeah.
They almost lost, but like they're missing, their main offensive handler. And I mean, just their season long kind of body of work. They beat the Flyers, who are an S tier team. And yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them sneak their way into championship weekend, which I think warrants being up there.
Definitely.
I think the
Did-
top tier.
Did anyone who watched
The top.
the actual, like I watched the first half of the game and then I saw the final score and I was like, what? Did Atlanta kind of choke it away, or did Austin really like take it? You know what I mean?
Austin took it.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
got some
I mean,
D's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an element
I
of
think it
choking
was-
in
Yeah, I think it's got to be a mix of both, but it's not like the Hustle were just like turning over bad stuff. Like Austin was making them throw some like kind of crazy shit that just was going too far or would go over someone's head because it was a hammer. Like Austin was playing some good defense.
Heard.
Yeah. So last thing I guess for B is do either of the Hustle or Winchell go down for you?
I'd say no.
Okay.
I'd say no. Does anyone else have a disagree?
No.
Doesn't sound like it.
All right.
I feel like the Hustle are close, but I don't want to fault them too much because they almost won the game in Austin, and like the other game was such a trap game. And like, yeah, they went to overtime with Dallas, but then they fucking stomped. And like, I don't know. It was close, but I don't really feel like if they played again, it would be close again.
God,
I
the
mean,
only
the C is not a bad place to be. Like we have the Union in C,
that was my next point.
Fair.
I don't know if I agree with that, and I don't know how to solve it. The Union being a tier below the wind chill, I know they just lost them, but they've also beaten them, and they also have one less loss than them. Like, I think there's recency bias in last week of the wind chill beating the Union of putting them there. But now, like, kind of looking forward into playoffs and championship weekend and where we have them holistically, like, I don't think they're a tier below the wind chill. I just don't know how to resurrect that situation.
Mm,
I would love to hear what you guys think about that. Do you think they are
it's
tier below?
tricky.
Not really.
Let's look at some. I don't know, man.
Well, let's,
it's tough.
They're in C tier and they've only had lost one game to the wind chill.
Union's third in the league in hold percentage.
I want to say I do kind of want to move the Hustle down just because like I don't think the C tier is a tier of bad teams by any stretch, but it is like kind of the tier for teams that are just not quite there.
Yeah, I think the Hustle moved down just because they're out of playoff contention too. But most likely, I'll say that there's a chance, but most likely, the Flyers or the Soul Needle. There's like the Canyons at the Legion.
Well, I would look at it. Yeah, I mean, okay. So if you look at the schedule, the rest of the ways are like the Hustle can win out and potentially still not make it. Is that
Yeah.
that's tough? I mean, and on the other hand, I would say you go into a road doubleheader and you split 1-1. I would take that, but I guess they lost the important one. So,
Yeah, they
I mean, I guess
needed
they kind of had to go 2-0, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
they
tough.
could have lost the Dallas game and then won the
Yeah.
Seoul game, had the tiebreaker, but
I think they're a Growlers level team. Like I think the Growlers are good.
Yeah.
But I just
You
don't
know
see
what?
it.
Actually, yeah, I kind of do feel like they are a Growlers level team.
okay.
But I feel like a Growlers team.
Like these are good teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's apples and oranges though. But like the Growlers got dogged on by the Summit, and then when the Hustle go up against Carolina, it's always a close game. But maybe it's just like Carolina just has a much different style of play, as well. Like they're not, unless you're Tampa Bay, they're not going to run up the score on you a ton. They're just like super surgical and they're just going to win. So,
Mhm.
Okay, I'm fine with this.
And then Union up, what were we saying?
No,
Sam, Sam, what do you
no.
Like
Um,
Sam, you seem very agreeable.
I want the Union to go up because I think they're on Minnesota's level. I think whoever's at home in that playoff game is going to win it. Also, yeah, that's the main reason. I think I think I want to move the Rascals up, getting ahead a little bit because of their win, but I do want to have these two teams ahead of them.
I also think the Union are better than Philadelphia. So
Mhm.
if we're gonna have Philly in the B tier, I kind of
Okay,
think
yeah.
Union might be in the B tier. But I do
Yeah.
think Minnesota should move ahead of Austin.
All right, what's the order here?
I think Minnesota is best in the B tier, personally.
That or like
Yeah.
that. Didn't the Union? Who won that game? The Union beat the Soul, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay,
So
that's good.
Moo.
Yeah, Moo, we got something going there.
Moo.
Yeah.
If
All right.
Atlanta goes in and then Union switches with Minnesota, then it's hum. So we got something to root for.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Growlers did not play. Hustle we talked
Stan-
about.
Growlers, I just want to say, like, great C tier team. Like they live in the C tier.
yeah,
They love to not play.
they love not playing. Come on, San Diego.
The Alley Cats got spanked by Chicago.
They look good early though.
Mhm.
They're not an
Um,
E tier team though. I think
No.
if we want to move them down in the D tier, but
They honestly might make the playoffs though.
I'm fine
They-
leaving
they
them
have
right
a-
where they are.
They have a very viable path to the playoffs.
it's
Alley
it's gonna be
Cats.
them and the Radicals, right? Do they play? Is there like a
Yeah, this week. That's the game.
Is that the game? Okay.
That's the game that's going to determine playoffs most likely.
I think the Radicals and the Alley Cats, like the Radicals, either Sam, you're talking about them moving up. I wouldn't
Where-
be mad about them moving up.
Yeah. Joe, where
Yeah.
is that game? Is that in Indy or?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Okay.
That's in Madison.
I
Ooh,
just
that's
want to
big.
point out. The Alley Cats are first in the league in huck percentage, and they're first in the league in D-line conversion percentage.
Indoors.
That's pretty impressive.
Still impressive. I mean,
D-line conversion, that's, the Hucks are an indoor thing. I'll say that, but D-line
Yeah.
conversion is tough. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and leave them right there. They got spanked, but like whatever. Aviators did not play. Spiders did not play. The Nitro may as well not have played.
before we go over the Spiders, do we think they have an outside shot of getting in the
Oh, yeah.
playoffs?
I'm here for it.
Who's that third team in the West? We've got Summit and Shred, like
And
are
the
a lock.
Growlers.
And then the Growlers, like
Yeah, so let's go into that a little bit.
5
So
and 3,
it's
3 and
5 and
5.
3 and 3 and 5.
How would that work? The
Spiders.
Growlers play the Summit next week, so that's probably an L.
Growlers, it's gonna take an L, a fat L.
So here we go. Spiders
Oh my
are gonna
god,
have to
final
beat the
game of the
Growlers.
season.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Wow.
if the Spiders drop this shred game, it becomes a lot harder. But if they
Well,
sweep the
let's-
Aviators and then
They'll
beat
have
the
four.
Growlers,
If they lose to the Shred, they'll have 4 losses, or no? They'll have how many losses will they have? They'll have 6 losses. So you need to get the Growlers to 6 losses.
mhm, which would be maybe Summit, and then maybe they drop this Seattle road game,
Oh, I
Home
don't see
Seattle.
dropping those
and
games.
then losing the Spiders game. So either the Spiders are gonna have to beat the Shred, or the Growlers are gonna have to drop this Seattle game, most likely.
I love how we're not even talking about the Nitro game because we just have no faith in the
No,
Nitro.
Nitro suck.
Oh, Nitro
No.
are bum.
yeah.
Speaking of the
That's gonna be
Nitro,
interesting.
where I'll phrase it like this: where in F are we putting the Nitro?
I don't know. They're in a much better division. Wow, Legion are in a great division. Maybe ahead of, we got to move the Legion up first.
Yeah,
Dude,
there's a fair amount of.
Still don't
Okay,
have a
well,
win.
let's
I-
talk about definite things. So I think Ottawa and Montreal need to swap because
Yeah,
Ottawa beat
I agree.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oops.
Montreal,
Canada.
what is going on? Who
Dude,
are
the
you?
Canada teams, like, who knows about them? Like, they can be good at the beginning of the season, then they can just
Toronto and Philly play this week, and they both have 4 wins. And
Yeah.
if Toronto wins that game,
They could be
Philly
in
will
playoff,
have to win out, I think, to make the playoffs.
including an Empire game.
Yeah.
Toronto looked so bad against Philly the last time they played. So bad. And they had no answer for James Pollard.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think Philly's gonna
Is
win that game.
Boston
Boston's-
F tier?
Boston sucks.
Boston
so
is
bad.
F tier. Give them.
Yeah, get them out of here.
Yeah. Get out of here.
I'm gonna move Toronto up just because I don't think they're this bad.
Okay, I think that's
You
fine.
move Dallas to the top of the F tier.
All right.
Okay.
Anything? So we're keeping Nitro E?
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
I want
get those-
Nitro in F. Let
Put
me
it behind Legion.
let me look at the Nitros.
Not
sort
yet.
of.
Not yet. I would put them at the front, but they still don't have a win. But
Yeah.
I'm really hoping what they play the Cannon soon, right? Like I'm hoping like they get their win there.
Oh, they're gonna win that. So Nitro beat Seattle at home. This game is the big like what happened there.
It was rainy. It was very rainy.
Yeah. And
yeah.
then since, let's see, so they beat the Spiders, they beat the Cascades. Since then, they lost to the Aviators, they lost to the Aviators, lost to the Growlers, got spanked by the Spiders, and then got spanked again by the Shred, both at home. Both at home and both with the other team on a back-to-back. So
That's wild. I was gonna
I think-
say maybe they're missing people those last 2 weeks, but both
I think
home.
the wheels have fallen off. I'm cool since they have wins, putting them above
Yeah, me
Legion.
too. I think so. The Legion, the final 2. I mean, God, the Legion schedule is just so annoying. Like we talked about how they've only played the Hustle, the Soul, and the Flyers and the Windchill, and like to finish up their weeks, their next few games are the Soul, the Hustle, and then finally the last 2 games are Tampa Bay versus Dallas. So hopefully they can finish the season with 2 wins, but
Mhm.
that's gonna be it for them.
That's tough. Are they like
Um,
one big player away from
No.
competing with some of these teams? You don't think so?
I think they're the other teams getting worse away,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or maybe division realignment away.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the last thing that we have not addressed is the Detroit taking half against Pittsburgh. I don't know if that changes anything, but it was
No.
exciting.
It was
say the
definitely
least.
exciting. I don't think it changes anything in the tiers, maybe positioning in those levels, but that was God, that was so fun. Who wasn't rooting for Detroit in that game? I don't think
Mhm.
Pittsburgh was, but everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
There was something that Ish wanted us to talk about. It was like that play in that club tournament or
Oh.
whatever with the disc. Like it's like they greased it up or something and it was like slipping off everyone's hands and they got it. What I'll say about this, Ish,
Ah,
if you're listening, this is proof. If anyone's unsure, this is proof that frisbee's not a real sport. Like, are we kidding ourselves? That is silly.
here's the thing. I don't know how the second guy didn't catch it right here.
Yeah, what was he doing?
It looked like he was trying to volleyball hit it.
That is a great point.
Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's a setup.
Like he's got his hands, just put your hands on the frisbee and then close them.
He was like less
He
trying
hit
to
it
catch
with
it.
like his thumb.
That's a good point, Sam.
Sorry, we can't have hands like Sam.
I guess it's tough because like you're not expecting the ricochet, and he's like
Mhm.
already kind of like his momentum's carrying him. I mean that's a tough catch, but like yeah, it looks like he just went at it with two clubs and just clubbed
Yeah.
it like, to his teammate a little bit.
Smacked
No
it.
offense, but
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is our week 12, heading into week 12 tier list. Looking at it now that we've sorted it out, is there anything that needs to change or are we good to go?
looks good to me. Looks a
think-
little less symmetrical, but
I think that S tier looks a little lonely. We could have the alley cats there.
True.
I agree.
Right.
Oh man, damn, that Radicals Winchell game was so cool to watch. Yeah,
My
that was
favorite
wild.
part was the lightning delay.
Oh fuck that. What was I doing? Oh, I had a movie on, so it was okay.
Shout out Matt Johnson on the Empire. I figured out he was the player that my intel said was going to play his first game, and so he played 17 D-point lines and he had 4 scores and 3 blocks. So
Hell yeah. Turns out-
day.
3 blocks. Wow.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it just turns out that the Empire scrubs are just better than the rest of the league.
Yeah. Yeah. Backup Empire players might still just be A tier.
S tier.
Yeah, they might even be S tier too.
God, they
Yeah.
dogged on Glory.
All right. Well, yeah, that's our week. So what we call it, the week 11 tier list or the week 12 tier list? I'm gonna call
what
it
week was this past one?
11. But we're
Yeah.
going into 12.
Week 11. I think it's week
Week
11
11.
because it's the week 11 games.
Okay.
What do we call the last? Whatever we call the last one plus one.
Last one plus one, X plus one tier list. Yeah. Any final thoughts before we go to work?
I'm open.
I'm open.
I'm open.